I'm Stefano Brusoni. I'm Professor of Technology and Innovation Management at ETH Zurich, where I'm also a Vice Rector for Continuing Education. I'm an economist by training, so my original degree is not in STEM technologies. But in my research career, I ended up always working with engineers, with engineering companies, studying how engineers solve different kind of technical problems. And that is how my interest in STEM education evolved, and that is ultimately what took me to ETH Zurich. At ETH Zurich, we train engineers and natural scientists, so everything we do has to do with STEM education. That applies also to continuing education. The vast majority of our Weiterbildung programs are about different technical fields, from architecture to AI, through fire safety engineering, for example. And more recently, we've grown a lot in medical technologies as well. While, of course, as a higher education institution, we focus more on young and less young adults, we have started recently also giving more attention to what we can do to contribute to STEM education for younger children. It is very important for us. For example, the STEM fields are made visible to kids at a young age. This is useful to offer them options and opportunities for later. It is also very important because we still suffer of a very visible gender imbalance in our undergraduate classes and later. And so we believe that by making STEM technology, STEM fields visible at a younger age, we could help address that problem. I've been supporting a few initiatives that are trying to make STEM fields more approachable, more visible to young kids. Little Scientist is one, and I'm very happy to be here. Another initiative that I would like to mention is Girls Code 2, which is an association offering workshops to pupils in primary school, also looking at these same issues. Generally, we offer a lot of continuing education programs to adults in this case, including courses that, for example, introduce technical fields like AI to professionals without a technical degree. So that's also a way to make STEM fields approachable, visible, manageable to people who had made different education choice in a younger age. I think the best way to make these subjects visible and approachable is to get people to try to do things, to build little prototypes, to solve simple problems at the beginning, to show them that these subjects are actually an opportunity for everyone. Of course, at increasing level of complexity, a bunch of skills are necessary that people have to develop at a higher level of complexity. Talent is also important, but there is nothing intrinsically limiting access to the STEM fields. And I think people have to try to play, to experiment in very tangible ways, to see what is it that they really like and what it is that STEM fields can actually deliver. Well, STEM fields is essentially a set of principles, a set of techniques, a set of skills which are about problem solving, solving complex problems, solving simple problems in ways that are meant to be useful to society at large. STEM fields rely intrinsically on a critical assessment of how we do things all around us and how we can do it better. I think these are skills that are important because they're not only technical in nature, mathematics or engineering or whatever, but they're really about thinking critically about how we go about our lives. And I think the combination of technical skills and critical thinking is an excellent foundation for a career in any field. Well, we are a higher education institution, so obviously we focus on bachelor and MSc students, but we also organize not only Weiterbildung programs, continuing education programs for adults, for professionals who want to upskill, who want to reskill. This is something which is specifically important nowadays. But we are also engaged with other organizations in the Zurich and broader Swiss ecosystem to set up activities that make STEM fields visible to younger people, all the way to primary schools. Well, one of the biggest challenges is that choices are made sometimes at a very young age that set preferences or biases and that limit the opportunities that young kids can then leverage at a later age. I think that the challenge is to find ways that are respectful, that are transparent, but that also help children and their families consider a broader range of options for the education of their kids down the line. I think the Swiss education system is quite flexible by design, and I think that flexibility could be leveraged even more. Well, there are several things that are happening in STEM fields. Obviously, the fields themselves are changing. Think about the super fast development in the AI area right now. But I think more importantly, we see the emergence of new learning and educational techniques that are becoming quite common. Let me emphasize, first of all, the increasing reliance on problem-based learning, on project-based learning. So these are educational methods that rely less on traditional lecturing, so people like me talking to a large number of people, and rely way more on students of any age actually doing things, solving problems, building prototypes, testing whether or not people are willing to engage with that prototype. These changes have been happening for quite some time, and now we are integrating these changes with new digital technologies that are helping to scale. Because the key bottleneck in this kind of project-based learning techniques is their scalability. And now we might be at the edge of a phase of development in which we could actually leverage digital technologies to scale these methods. Well, it's difficult to ignore the role that generative AI is having right now. That role is not yet clear, so there is much we can design and there is much we have to be careful with. For example, generative AI is being already applied as a kind of tutor for education in several contexts. The effects are mixed. They're mixed because we probably don't know yet exactly how to integrate generative AI in our education, but the potential is very high. Well, some of the skills that are important today will remain important. I mean, obviously, STEM fields require a certain level of numeracy. Coding is and will remain important. At the same time, how these skills will be developed, they will change dramatically, I would think, thanks to the application of this technology, of generative AI, for example, to how we teach. I think that from what we see already in terms of the early applications of these new technologies, the more technical competencies will have to remain integrated, as they are already to an extent, with skills like critical thinking or system thinking. Again, these skills are not new. And the packaging of technical skills and critical thinking skills has always been built into any engineering program, for example. It's probably a good time now to make that more explicit and to use those critical thinking skills to reflect on how we can integrate better, more effectively, to the benefit of all these new technologies into how we teach. Explore. Don't get stuck on the first choice. Try something else, try again something else. At least higher education institutions, those I'm familiar with, are to some extent designed to push people into a specific path. That's understandable. People have benefits if they graduate within a certain time period. But we also offer options to explore different subjects, to explore different ways of learning. And as obvious as it sounds, I think this exploration has to happen when people are younger, because that is when they have time to try again and try again. As the later we wait, the more commitments we get. Again, something obvious. I think the best way we can support children is to be open-minded and do not assume that we understand from day one what our kids are good at or what they like. The job is to give them options. The job is to give them a space that they can explore and try out and make mistakes, and then we start again. We tend, and this I say it as a parent myself, we tend to channel on our kids our own preferences or our own wishes for the things that we couldn't do when we were kids. That's fine, and that is normal, but we still have to make an effort to be open and actually see what the kid looks like, what the kid likes, what the kid seemingly enjoys. There are many rewarding moments in my interactions with students, with colleagues, in doing research and in teaching. I think focusing on teaching, I think one of the most rewarding experiences is always when you meet a student 2 or 3 years later after the course, and they remember you and they tell you, I'm actually using some of the things we discuss in class. Because classes, particularly large classes, are environments in which the interaction is limited. You are providing a broad set of skills. Students might or might not see their usefulness in the short term, but when they come back after a couple of years and they tell you, now I got it, now I'm using it, now I see why it was important, that's actually a good feeling. We are already engaged at ETH and in other universities, obviously, in an effort to make our teaching more interactive, more practical, more project-based, because that's the best way in which people learn. Now, as I said earlier, there are scalability challenges in this kind of teaching, but we are on to them. Have we solved all the problems? Not even close. But we're working on it, and there is a consistent effort to get there in a relatively short period of time. STEM education is central to the way we live. I mean, this interview is enabled by technologies that have been developed over time and they keep changing. So there is, in my view, no foreseeable future in which STEM fields are not going to be important. Again, they're changing, there are new subjects, old subjects are being rejuvenated. How we teach, how we learn is changing. So yes, nothing is stable, but the STEM fields themselves are a foundational element of our life, and that will remain so.